Hi, welcome to Wrinkle Society of Hope. If you are returning, I appreciate all your support. And if this is your first time, thank you. Today, you are going to listen to a story from one of our Wrinkles women to share about a wrinkle that she had to press through in order to become the woman that she is today. Now, please hit subscribe and share our channel. And don't forget, hit that notification bell so that you can hear the new stories that come from our Wrinkles women. I'm so glad to hear from you, and I can't wait for you to hear this story. Hi, Wrinkles. We are here again. I have one of my dearest friends. We have done some things together. We've done baby showers. Yes. And we had the adventure of running a speed dating. We have done a lot. So I'm going to have her introduce herself to the Wrinkles family.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me, Summer. So yes, baby showers and weddings and speed dating. But my name is Khonnie Silivongse, and I'm actually a social worker like Miss Summer here. So yes, we also have that in common.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Social workers
Yes,
rule the world, right?
yes.
Yes. And you've been working in the department for a while. For how long?
Well, I work for, the REBA, currently, for the past 7 years, it's Mercy Care under Aetna, but I've worked as a court liaison for, I think, for almost 14 years. So yeah, I started in the kids court, and then now, working with the adults, but, now specifically in the Phoenix, jail, the new one that they built. So yes.
Yeah. Busy, hardworking woman since the day I met her. So I am
Well,
so
thank
excited
you.
to have you here, sis. So excited. And
Yes,
as
me
you
too.
see, beautiful face, hasn't changed how long we've been knowing each other now?
You know what? I'm not even sure. I quit counting. We met working at Aurora, right? Me, you, and Ken.
No, I didn't ever work in Aurora.
Oh, you did it. What did I think? But that's how I met you was through Kendra, and
Yeah,
so yeah, that's a long
a
time
long
ago.
time. Pre
Yeah,
Kendrick's first baby. So
yeah.
so
That's
it's
funny.
been at least a good 9-10 years. So we up there. We up there. But as
Yes.
you see, no wrinkles, beautiful, still looking like the day I met her. So
Aw.
if you had a physical wrinkle, how do you think you would feel about that? Or do you have one
Well,
hidden?
no, I actually do have wrinkles, on my forehead. I noticed this, 3, 4 years ago. Seriously, I'm like, how, and me, I'm kind of a pessimistic. So I go around looking at the world with like this kind of face, because I'm like questioning people. But no, those are my wrinkles, but, I wear them proudly because, like I was saying earlier, I'm going to turn 49 on Monday, and so,
Oh,
yeah. So I wear, and I have gray hair too that I don't even color. I just try to pick out some, but some of them I'm just leaving it there. I earned them. So yeah.
49. I did not know. I don't know why I thought you were my age.
Yeah, no, usually what's funny actually is all my close friends like you and Kendra and everybody else, I'm like a couple years, 2 to 3 years, older than everybody. So yeah. So
Oh, well, you rocking that 49. That's what I'm talking about.
uh, thank you. Thank you.
I think it's the social workers and our knowing how to get self-care also is a big thing. We take care of ourselves because we got to take care of so many other people
Yes.
that, we
Oh yeah.
know how to rock this aging thing.
Yeah. Well, I learned years ago, I needed to take care of myself before I burn out, or else I'm not good, to clients or to my friends and, or to my family. So, I mean, I've always been like that because I learned, like, well, I can't, keep doing this. But I'm also lucky too, because I don't have kids. I live alone. And so I can decompress. I have time to myself, and I, take advantage of it. I read a lot, I watch TV a lot, and then, I spend time with, my friends such as yourself, who invigorate me more, who bring me back to center. You know what I mean? And so I'm very lucky that, actually most of my close friends are either psychiatrists, psychologists, or social workers or therapists. So, hey, I got that going on. I have my whole clinical team working for me to keep this calm.
I love it. Their clinical team of friends.
Exactly. I do. I got a probation officer. I got, judges. I got the whole clinical team going on here, girl.
Oh, I need some of your friends. Make sure,
Yeah.
legal stuff.
No, exactly.
Well, as through life, we go through so much, especially what we do, just life in general. What is a wrinkle that you had to press through in life?
Oh, when I always think about this, again, one of the things I've learned in the last 20 years is, to be grateful for everything, for every, decision that I've made, for everything that's come through my life. And, and people always ask, if you could change anything. And you know what? I don't want to change anything, because I wouldn't end up who I am today with the struggles, with the successes, So the wrinkle that I thought about automatically when, you asked me this is, my divorce. Actually, nobody knows, a lot of people don't know that I've been married. Like, I was young. This was, I've been divorced for 22 years, but this was, 98. But it started, 6 months before my divorce was final, September 13 in 99. But it started in, 98, the day before Thanksgiving, actually, when I had a miscarriage. And so I ended up in the hospital. I was married at the time, obviously, in Washington. And so I ended up, at the hospital, and then released the next day, and I didn't have a DNC till a couple days later. But but I got up, Thanksgiving Day, and I'm here cooking, Thanksgiving meal for my husband and my friends. And then fast forward to, February of 99, when my husband at the time then said, you know what, I'm not in love with you. I think, this is not working. And, he wanted a separation. And I was away from family. It was just me and him, and being young, I was like, devastated. But I did know, like, learning from, my mom and other independent women, I was like, separation, there's no separation. It's a divorce, because we all know what happens in separation. You know what I mean? And so, and so we talked about, he was in the military, and then, like, not to file for a couple months. And so I moved from Washington, to Arizona for a little bit, but I actually ended up back at home living with my parents. I was 27, and I come from a small town. I never thought that, that would happen to me. So I was floundering, for the first couple years, and enter my next wrinkle. That was the second wrinkle right after, those first two, is I was like, what am I going to do with my life? At the time I didn't have my master's. And so, I just started, working, got 2 jobs as usual, and then figured out I don't want to stay in a small town. There's more to life than this. I was like, I've always, even since then, knew instinctively that, I need to trust myself and do this, because nobody's going to do it for me. Like, in the Lao community, just like in a lot of communities, divorce was frowned upon. People were talking about me behind my back, like, what's she doing? She's home, she got a divorce. And, and my parents actually were the only ones. And growing up, it's ironic, is because my parents were very strict. They were not emotionally supportive. They were not like the cuddly feely type, and so, but they stepped up and they supported me. And then after about, a couple of years, I was like, I'm going to get my master's. And the college, my undergrad, didn't have social work. I always knew I want to be a social worker. So then that was a second, way I got out of that wrinkle. I was like, I'm going to go get my master's, because if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And, this is the perfect opportunity. So I moved to, Albuquerque, and then started my master's, 2002. So yeah, so that was again, another major wrinkle. And 3 years later, I've heard you talk about, and everybody else too, going to grad school. Grad school is no joke. It was, and I had to do it 3 years because my undergrad wasn't social work, but also like the last year for some reason. Well, a couple reasons, like my support network had moved away. I was working full-time job, doing internship 20 hours, going to school, 4 or 5 nights a week with no support. And at the time, of course, I don't talk about this a lot, but I got depression. I got depressed, and I was like almost at my wits end. So that last year, I mean, those are really the top three like most difficult things that I've had to overcome, mentally, spiritually, that I had to pull it from whatever I had, because nobody's going to be able to do it for you. We know this. It's great to have support, but other people were, busy with their own lives, and nobody, had time to, take care of me. But, one thing that, I am proud of is that I pushed through it, and I graduated, and I did it. And then, and then I moved here, which, my goodness, my life has turned around so much. And one thing I've learned is because I've pushed through, all the, wrinkles and stuff. And, without the support and stuff that I have today, I mean, I am so grateful. Like I said earlier, it's like, I wouldn't change anything, but I just know that, we have to keep moving forward because, I've learned that I can be crying at the end of the 12-hour days, but you know what? I wake up the next day, it's a new day, and I'm just thankful. You know what? If I got through yesterday, I can continue this, one step at a time. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know I never knew, and it has to be hard, like you said, culturally,
hmm
because I have more of I had the religious things,
yeah.
being a preacher's daughter. I've had things
Mm,
that people frowned
hmm
upon me because being a preacher's
yeah.
daughter. So I can kind of attest to what you were saying, and I'm from a small town.
Exactly. Yes.
It's a
Yes.
different.
Yes.
That had to be hard to face the scrutiny from the people of your culture because of
hmm
a choice that you had to make for yourself. How did
Exactly.
how'd you get through that? Because I know it's hard for me to deal with some of the things I've dealt with because of me being a pastor's daughter. How did you get through
Hmm
that part of dealing with the cultural, kind of coming
hmm
against you or just putting you down because of it?
Yeah. Well, I've learned, just like with everything else, even now, like, it's, what? These people, they don't pay my bills. They're not there to hold my hand. All they do, is talk and gossip. And I'm like, and I've learned years ago, with the attitude I have, you know what? I'm like, what we always hear now, it's like, what other people think about you is none of your business. Because the thing is, I'm like, when I was down in the depths, or even when I succeeded, you know what? To me, those people are going to still be the same. But, I wanted to keep going because I'm like, again, your opinion doesn't matter to me because, you're not part of my life. Either you're with me or you're not. And so again, like with my parents, and I just kept going. My parents, like I said, they were not like the touchy feely type, but you know what they told me basically, to just keep moving. And sometimes when, again, people or my parents especially, they would say stuff like, my mom, she's like, when you had the miscarriage, they minimize stuff so that they know that that's how you can get through things, but at the time it hurt my feelings. Like, my mom's like, when I had the miscarriage, oh, you'll be fine. You don't need kids. Look at your sister struggling, and at the time, again, I think that's why I'm like so direct. But I learned it from my mom. But I think we all know, what, eventually, we need to stop wallowing in self-pity and get going. And then, and you know what, and prove those people wrong, because you don't have time to mess with that, because it's like they're not a part of your life. So why would I waste my time and energy? So since then, I just like, I think the divorce gave me the freedom. You know what, I'm going to do whatever I want, because nobody can control my destiny or my future except me. And I'm like, you can talk about me all you want because it doesn't bother me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even now, I always say, I don't care if people like me or not, because I'm like, that has nothing to do with me because I'm like, I know I have enough friends who like me and these are people who I like and respect. I'm like, so why would I bother with you who are just gonna, judge me and stuff? And so, like I said, I've been down, in the dumps or down in the trenches, and I know who's there to help me. I know who's there when, I'm down, and then when I'm, succeeding. So yeah, so I've always learned that, but I always like to, remind people too, when I say I don't care if people like me, I only care about people who like me, who I, love and respect, and I have that. So I'm very fortunate, so that's my, philosophy for life. I'm like,
I love it. I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Love it. What would you tell your younger self, that, the one either prior to marriage or during that marriage? What advice would you give her?
Oh my gosh, you know what? It would be, trust in yourself. No matter how hard it is, it's like, you know what, just keep, just keep going. But the thing is, you know what? You have great instinct, just like all of us. We always have this gut feeling. I always make decisions. People think I just, make it overnight, because, I moved, I decided to divorce my husband, when he wanted to get back together. Because you know what? I'm like, okay, there was a reason why that did not work out, and I always learn in the last, 20, 25 years. It's like, you know what, every decision that I've made by moving forward has always made my life better.
Yeah.
No matter if nobody else had the faith in me, I'm like, who would have thought? Believe it or not, Summer, I was basically the black sheep of the family. I have two brothers and two sisters because, again, my divorce and moving from one place to place, and people were just like, thinking, oh wow, there she goes, she moved back home, she's not going to make anything of her life, and all this stuff. Yeah, and but I ended up now, like, my family, comes to me, like my parents, I can help them out a little bit financially. And again, I'm like, I'm independent, I get to travel. I don't, have to worry about, all this stuff holding me down because always have been able to take care of myself and land on my feet. I moved so many times without no money, without nobody, supporting me. And like when I moved here, I just knew my cousin and his wife. But like I started from the beginning, and from, I moved here June, 6th of 2005, and since then, 16 years ago, I could not imagine my life turning out, this great. And again, it's because I trusted in myself, and I always tell people, the boys at the group home, I always say, you know what, you can do whatever you want as long as you can deal with the consequences.
Yes. That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. So,
Awesome. Well, let's say today, the woman that has been through a lot and pushed through, and now that you stand here still strong, what you got a t-shirt made. What would that t-shirt say?
I thought about this. Of like, I'm such a, quote person,
Oh,
and I have quotes about everything, and some of them are tattooed on me, like, one of my favorite quotes is, that, what if I fall, but it's like, oh my darling, but what if you fly,
mm,
but if I were, to make my own without using, anybody else's, any companies and stuff, is, what I would put life disruptor, and I would put my life, because we're thinking, nowadays when we think of disruptor, I think it's more in a positive thing. Like, I'm not afraid to shake up my life.
yeah.
Like I bought a house. I decided to sell a house because I thought I was going to go live in Laos. Then I bought another house and then I quit my job. So, but you know what? Again, I always landed,
Always.
able to take care of myself. Because the thing is, I'm like, you know what? I am not afraid to work at McDonald's. Okay. If that is my last resort, I'd be like, you want fries with that shake? I always tell people this, but it's true, just like you and, and a lot of women, if we're not afraid to work, things will come to you. And I believe that, because I've seen it happen in my life, so yeah, whatever you want to call it, karma or faith or all I know is if you keep working hard and taking care of yourself, good things and good people will come to support you and lift you up. I mean, I've had so much, great mentors and stuff. So yeah.
I love it. Yes, yes. And the social worker, the powerful woman that you are, what are you doing now? Because as social workers, we advocate, we give back to the community.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
things are you advocating for? What things are you working with? What are you doing right now in our community?
Yeah, and I thought about this, and I'm like, oh man, I'm ashamed of this because I'm like, I don't have any big thing going on, but like, I used to volunteer with, Asian organization with Big Brother, Big Sister. But currently, I'm just working my two jobs, and I feel that I'm already advocating as a court liaison.
Yeah.
I'm working to advocate specifically, obviously, with people with, mental illness. But, I do that. I've been doing that for the last 14 years. And I love it because it's like, it makes a difference between this person going to jail or not, or getting treatment, and yeah, even though it's my job, but it's like, I love it. I get to do this every day,
Yeah.
so I, take pride in that. But I also actually, and this is probably not, a popular opinion, but, I can explain why. So I did decide to, like, well, I probably need to volunteer, do something, because I've been, resting, for the last 5 years. But, I've always, again, worked in the court. I did my undergraduate internship actually at a police station, at the university, Eastern New Mexico University. So I've always had this good relationship with law enforcement because, I thought I wanted to be a probation officer, and then working through the courts, one of the things I've learned is, what? I'd rather be on the side of, people who can help me when things, go, go bad, or I want support from everybody, and so, like, because I've had, issues with, stalkers, or, I've been stopped by the police, but because I have good friends that are police, and I work with them, and, and prosecutors, and through the court, again, I just like every, field, there's bad apples or whatever, and even in this climate, I see it. And it's especially, obviously the rise, in Asian hate because of, COVID and all this stuff. And then, like, all the, violence, perpetuated towards, African Americans, or even, the Hispanic, Latinx community, everybody,
Yeah.
but so I decided to, because again, through my police contacts, that, I got on the police, Phoenix Police Department's Asian Advisory Board. Because again, Asians, people always, think, well, there's not a lot of, us, and, there's, you guys don't need advocating, or you guys aren't going through, any hardships, and, all this miseducation,
Yeah.
misinformation, thinking that, we're the, model minority, and I learned that in grad school. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is that? But, but the thing to me is, just at least trying to advocate for that. And again, I still support everybody else's, like, I did a couple marches, for the for George Floyd, when we had it here, at the beginning actually of the pandemic. So I'm always supporting all my friends, with because these are the causes that I believe in as a social worker, but also as a human, as a minority woman, refugee woman, what I mean. So, and but I've always supported, like, LANA, the Lao American National Alliance, that my sister has been a part of. Like, they have, yearly conferences before, COVID, but, like, that's how they got information out to the Lao community, and so I support that more, financially, but so eventually, yeah, I want to do, something else. I don't have a project like, like you guys, with podcast or book. I'm like, yeah, I don't have that, but one of the things that I always say is, I'm always thinking, educating myself, trying to figure out what is my next step.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, whatever my next step is, I want to be fully committed, and I want to, to do something where I'm going to make a difference, because, a lot of people are writing books and doing this, but to me, I feel that if I'm not making a little bit of a difference, or if I don't have something new to say, then, then I'm not going to do it, and so, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, like you said, we're social workers, so we're always doing some kind of work toward
Yeah.
community improvement, and we're helping people. So even if it's not a project, you're doing it every day at work. I
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we went into social work. I mean,
Exactly.
to help
Exactly.
people, to empower people, to advocate for people, and
Yes.
especially the mental health world. I mean, let's be real. They need
Yes.
as much support as probably a lot more populations out there, because this is why
Yeah.
things are happening. Because
Mm-hmm.
they're not supportive. They don't have the advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, yeah, you're working every day, but and I appreciate that police needs that support too, because there are good
Mm-hmm.
police out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
My fiance is a retired police officer, so
Ah,
there
yeah.
are things that are going on, yeah, that are not
Mm-hmm.
right, but
Mm-hmm.
there are some
Mm-hmm.
good from the police force. And
Yes.
definitely, I know that you worked with a lot of police officers as well, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard when you're knowing that there's good police officers and you
Mm-hmm.
support those
Mm-hmm.
police officers. Then you got to also support your culture and the things that your people are going through as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Being in the middle, and also being an advocate for those that are less fortunate or don't have the voice
Mm-hmm.
to speak up. So continue to do what you do, powerful woman, because I greatly I know it's needed. I know it's definitely needed.
Yeah. No, thank you. And one of the things that when people always say that, why do this, why do that, you know, we all should be doing it on a small scale. Like what I mean is like I'm sure that you've heard about there's always like friction between different cultures and stuff, and we're both aware of the friction between the African black community and the Asian, or even like I said with the police. Here's what I've learned, just because being a refugee, having to learn to speak a different language, and and facing racism and all that stuff that we all have, you know what I mean. But the thing is, it's like I'm doing it one by one. You know what? Not because it's like intentional. It's because, like, my friendship with you, my friendship with Kendra, I have like, four best friends that are black, strong black women, and I'm like, but I didn't do it because, oh, they're black. I do it because, character. I look at people's character, and it's like, I'm not, I see all this solidarity or this blaming and stuff, which is fine. But what I feel is the worst off of it is people just thinking, generally assuming,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh wow, how, or if you hear about all this bad stuff, and but then so then you're gonna hate or be mad at all of that culture,
Yeah.
Asians because COVID, or you're gonna be mad at black people because you think that you have this perception. And I'm like, first off, why would you do that? And second, it's like, especially if you're friends with people from all these different communities, like I said, when I see people doing bad stuff, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, I'm like, I'm just looking at you as an individual, because again, I guess because I surround myself, with everybody, and every color, because you know what, they bring value to me, not because I'm like, I'm going to be a social, justice warrior. No, it's because that's my friend.
Yeah.
you know and what was sad to me, and I'm sure you've seen it too, is like, when COVID first started, or when the George Floyd and all these protests and stuff, people were just like getting angry and getting mad, and I'm like, but you're forgetting the whole thing. We need to show empathy and compassion. Don't just listen to the news and you see, because we all have done things that are not good. You know what I mean? Like, but it just surprises me and saddens me that people are just going to be like picking one bad thing that's one person in this community did, and you're going to assign all the blame, and to this. But what hurts is even worse is like, like, I didn't have friends, a lot of friends reaching out to me when there was a rise in Asian, in Asian violence and stuff, and things like that. And look, here's the thing: I'm a social worker. I know I can handle myself. And again, I just like I tell the men I date, I'm like, I work with the police and judges. You don't want to mess with me. But the other hand is like, okay, I know what I need to do. I know, to take care of myself or to get resources and stuff. But yet, on Facebook, everybody, is reaching out. Some people are reaching out to me like, oh, well, can you post this about, you know, George Floyd or the, Aubrey case and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I kind of felt like, well, you should know I'm a social worker. I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even post about, when COVID, with the rise of Asia and all that stuff and stuff on my own page. Because to me, that's not what I'm about. And again, I always have to remind myself, maybe it's different because, we're already social workers. We've been doing this. We do this every day. I don't need to put it on my Facebook page, but once in a while I will, like if I'm showing support, like when we had the march, you know what? And you know what? None of my friends join me or even sent me a message. And again, I understand human nature, but we all need to be aware of, like, okay, so before you reach out to me and you want me to support your community, did you think about supporting my community? Like, obviously, I have a big mouth. Okay, I can take care of myself, but you know what? But does that mean that I wasn't a little scared at the beginning?
Yeah.
When all this, and I just got a few, side eyes, when,
Mhm.
the COVID and stuff, like looking at me like, oh,
Oh,
there's, the Asian, and like, for example, May is Asian Pacific Heritage Month. You know
yeah.
what? Nobody is, saying or, clapping or all this stuff, you know what I mean? But again, I think just like I'm sure, it's like we already have pride in our culture.
Yeah.
I don't need fake, once, 1 month out of the year or things like that. I'm like, if you're with me, you've been with me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
But I think, again, it's just, I think I just been disappointed. And some people, I'm like, okay, you expect me to really support you, but you didn't even reach out to me. And again, I'm like, and that's actually the biggest disappointment, which has been during, this, difficult time for everybody,
It,
so.
it truly was a shift, and it was a lot to deal with. And I think that's why a lot of people
Mhm,
been going through just emotional changes because of all. I mean, even myself, I was like, this is a lot.
mhm,
It was
mhm,
like from the getting from COVID period happening
mhm, mhm,
to the shift of then all this racial stuff happening,
mhm, mhm,
and then when the Asian community started being affected, I was like, what is going on? It kind of was like,
mhm,
what is this?
mhm,
What is going on in our world? Like, this
mhm,
is
mhm,
crazy. This is nuts. It's
mhm.
exhausting. To every time
Yeah.
I turned on, it was so much bad things.
Mhm,
And I think
mhm,
that's why I'm really like focused on the importance of, one, reaching out to people that you love. And like you said, doesn't matter
mhm,
what color you are, doesn't matter.
mhm.
Reach out to people you love. Spend time, even if it's over Zoom,
Yeah.
hopefully eventually in person. Spend
Mhm,
time with people that you love, because guess what? Life is too dark right now.
mhm,
From
mhm,
death to racism to all the politics stuff
mhm,
was just
mhm. Yes.
overwhelming.
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Yes.
it's so important to just know the people that are in your life that are
Mhm,
significant. Make sure
mhm.
that they know that they're significant. Spend time with them and just love on each other, because we need love.
Yeah.
We really do need
Yes.
love.
Yeah. And especially like with the people that you don't agree with, I find that, and I'm like, we need to overcome that. We can't just use their political leanings. Like, I have a couple friends that, on Facebook, I'm like, I had to mute them because I'm like, you're, but in person, like, you support me, you love me and stuff, but then when you're putting all this stuff, it's
Yeah.
like two different people. And it always boggles my mind, like, do you not see that what you say or what you post is affecting everybody? Do you forget that you have loved ones that have opposite opinions, that you're degrading or that you're, pointing fingers? And to me, I just don't get this. And these are people that who, are like God loving, or, or, all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm like, that's why I'm always aware of what, I post or what I say, because it's like, I love you,
Yeah.
but if you have a different opinion, I can't let that, be the main focus. To me, I have to separate it. okay, that's your opinion, because you know what, when you treat me as a human, so
Yeah.
I had to learn that disconnect, you know what I mean, like, like even me, and my boyfriend, it's like we have different opinions, but like, we're able to process this and talk about it. And
Yeah.
again, even with our friends, like I may not agree with everything that BLM did or does. I don't agree with everything that the president previous or prior, but you know what, there's like good points in everything. but
Yeah.
but the thing to me is like, I have, especially when I get so upset with the political stuff and all the racial stuff, but yet I have to like focus on a close friend that has the opposite, and I'm like, I have to humanize them by focusing on them,
Yeah.
instead of making the whole angry because of the stuff that we see. We can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, I connect with my friends because that's what reminds me of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Even if we have, different opinions, because if we don't, then you know what? Then you're going to start hating your own friends that are in your life, because you're like automatically going to think, because I've been there. It's like, oh, so you think that way. So that means you must think that way about me. But you know what? That's not true. As
No.
we all know, there's all shades of gray. Like, I'm like, I work in the court system. I believe in law and order, but
Yeah.
yet I'm also, but then I also believe that, they need to be, getting services. People need to be, really released from jail, whatever. Everybody needs all these services. We all see the unfairness of all this, but at least I take comfort in that, my job, I at least can make a difference that way. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Without having to choose, without having to say I'm a Democrat, or I'm a, Republican, or I'm a socialist, or I'm a left wing or right wing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my rant.
That's good, Liz. We needed to get it out, and it's real. So it's real stuff
Mhm.
going on. So I think that people need to talk about it and be open minded, and also learn to agree to disagree sometimes.
Exactly, exactly. Or I always tell people, or at least like, take the other people's opinion and think about it.
Yeah.
Like, you may not agree, but can you at least try to see why they think that way?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, yeah, and that's gonna, provide us because you want that from them, like, you want them to think of you as, you know what, even though she has all these opinions or, beliefs and stuff, I need to remember that, she comes from a different space than me, or this is how she got this way, or exactly the same thing that I've been saying. It's like, you know what, me and her are good. I know she's a good person to me. She's a good friend to me, and vice versa. And I think if that's the least that you can get without, all this noise of different political parties, different beliefs, and things like that, because we have to, or
Yeah.
else, we're going to be no worse than going out there and just, victimizing other people who we don't agree with or who look different to us.
So true. So true. Well, thank you for coming to Wrinkles today. A great discussion, and we're gonna have to have you back again. And I'm so happy to have you here, sis. I really am.
No, thank you so much, Summer. I love you, and I'm so glad. I'm so happy you're doing all this. I mean, like I said, power to you guys doing all this stuff. I am in awe. Yeah. So I think that no, that's great. That you give time and to do all this stuff, because it is much needed. That's just not my strong point. So I let all of you guys who can do it better do it. But thank you so much for having me here. So
Of course, of course. Well, we thank you. Bye, Wrinkles.
bye.